computer. All right.
Good evening, everyone. We hope you are well and you have had a great day. Today we'll be having our second session in our period 2, and we are going to learn about self-care for teachers. For those who are joining us for the first time, this is English Language Fellow program, and it's being coordinated by English Language Professional Society of Kenya, and being supported by the US Embassy and the RELO, that is Regional English Language Office. And we hope we are going to have a great time. Normally we have all the recordings, so those who are joining us for the first time, it does not matter if you miss the first one. We'll have the recordings and we can always share upon request. So I just want to welcome you all, and now I'll allow our facilitator to continue.
Thanks, Austin. Glad to have you all here for the second session of our new season, as Austin mentioned. And it will be a nice long season going into July. So I'm looking forward to all the great work we're going to be doing. So you can see our topic today is self-care for teachers. And I will admit that that was not originally my plan. Just a reminder, we are recording. I will share the recording, but if you don't want your image used, you can just keep your camera off. Although I love your faces, so feel free to turn them on if you want to. My plan, actually, after we met last time, and I launched the survey on Google Forms, thank you to those who filled it out. I was looking at the preliminary results, and it seemed that I was looking at what was popular with teachers, and this topic was very popular with teachers, as well as some others. So I was actually working on something else when Rukia Mohammed brought to my attention that October 10th is World Mental Health Day. I wasn't paying attention and didn't realize. And when she brought that to my attention, I thought, oh, well, then we definitely have to have this topic for our session today on the 11th. So I think it is a great topic for us. And I know a lot of teachers are coming off from a break in August, and sometimes we come back from a break feeling rested and ready to go, but that isn't always the choice or always the situation. Sometimes we need to kind of, we get burnt out early, and it's hard to get back into the flow of things. And also it's kind of a roller coaster, I think, as well. So we're going to take some time today to check in with ourselves and make sure that we are well. This topic, this isn't the last we'll see of this topic. It is a very, very, very important topic. I think we can all agree. We are very lucky to have Rukia Mohammed with us, as she is a counselor, but I know that a lot of you are also interested in this topic in other capacities. So we will be revisiting this topic in different ways. And a couple of people had mentioned being interested in doing presentations related to this topic. So don't think that this is the end of it. And if you have something to contribute, you will have an opportunity to do that. In today's session, and also remembering this is a big topic, so today we're focusing specifically on self-care for teachers. And so today we'll be looking at issues that impact our mental health as teachers related to work, why this matters. Hopefully it's obvious, but we'll go a little bit deeper into that. We'll look at some tips for self-care, and then we'll talk about or actually make an action plan to help us prioritize self-care. I recommend having a pen and paper or pencil and paper nearby. We will be doing a little writing or drawing exercise, so it might be useful for you to have a pen and paper nearby. And maybe you just like to have one nearby anyways, because maybe you like to take notes or something of that nature. And welcome to those who have just joined us. There are some names I see now that weren't here a few minutes ago. So I was looking on the internet at World Health Day and looking, or Mental Health Day, and seeing what the WHO, the World Health Organization, had to say about it, because they are kind of the main instigators or proponents of this day for mental health. Although, of course, we don't want to just have one day for it. It should be a lifestyle, I think. And they boil it down to, I think, what we all know. A job is not a job. Our jobs are a big part of our lives. And when we have a good job, we have good mental health. In fact, having a good job is a big contributor to good mental health. So those who are happy and satisfied with their jobs tend to have better mental health, as opposed to those who don't have jobs or who are unhappy in their jobs. There's a lot of satisfaction that comes along with having a good job. I think as teachers, we can all appreciate how satisfying our jobs are. And when our jobs go well, what a big impact they can have on our mental health and just our lives in general. And so, of course, when we have a poor work environment, this leads to poor mental health. So some factors that can contribute to a poor work environment are things like overwork. So that might be working too many hours, or you don't have enough other teachers. And so you have too much going on for yourself, too much to handle. Another factor could be misalignment of skills. So you may have a certain set of skills, but those aren't the set of skills needed for your job. So for example, maybe you need to teach math, but you aren't really a math teacher. Or maybe you are an excellent Kiswahili teacher, but you've been given English to teach. And so this misalignment can be very frustrating and problematic. Another issue can be lack of control over our workload or the way to tackle it. So you may have a lot of work and you think, oh, I know the best way to deal with this, but there may be some issues with curriculum or administration that don't allow you to do your work the way that you think it should be done. And so just this kind of lack of control in general, I think, can really poorly affect our mental health. Something that I think that is a given is if you are in an unsafe work environment, of course, that nobody likes that. If it's uncomfortable, maybe it's too hot or too cold or not clean or not large enough for what you need. Insufficient physical conditions, so you don't have all the equipment or supplies that you need. And then finally, unsupportive coworkers or supervisors. A couple of weeks ago in the chat, I remember somebody was having an issue with a coworker, and I could see from the chat, I didn't respond because I felt that those of you who are in a similar position could respond better. But it was very obvious to me this person was really suffering. And sometimes it just takes one person to make a toxic work environment, and sometimes it's a whole group of people. And then sometimes it starts with the top, with the supervisor. So these are issues that are applicable to any workplace, but I think as teachers, they really affect us even more deeply. Teaching is such an emotional job where we don't just go and sit there for whatever time that we need and just our body does whatever it needs. It's something that we really have to devote our mind and soul to in order to do it effectively. Oh, the wind is kicking up. So when things go poorly or we can't be as effective as we would like to be, then this can really severely affect us. Also, I think it's important to remember that that in any job and teaching, these situations can be in flux. So maybe sometimes things are really good and sometimes things change. So maybe one semester, your classes are perfect, your hours are perfect, and then the next semester they're not. Or maybe one semester you find yourself in contact with a certain person often that you're not usually in contact with. It could even be a student. So these things can change as well. So it's something to remember. So this is all coming from the WHO. And no matter if you're a teacher or in any other job, when these situations persist, they lead to mental health issues. They cause us to not feel that satisfaction and to start feeling some really negative feelings about our job. And our jobs are a big part of our lives, both in terms of time and, as mentioned earlier, I think a lot about our identity, right? When you ask someone, what do you do? They identify with their careers. So I'm curious about you and what factors impact you. So if you can identify with any of the factors I just mentioned, or there are other factors in your workplace that have a negative impact on your health, please feel free to share. And you can put your answers in the chat box so we can kind of brainstorm negative factors. They can be general, like the ones that were on the previous slide, or you can have things that are more specific. For now, we're going to leave it in the chat, and then we'll move it to conversation after that. So please feel free to share and to vent the factors in your workplace that have a negative impact on your mental health. And I will share in the chat too. Oh. Tiberius, I believe there is something serious to that, but of course I'm laughing because of our conversation yesterday. I have to turn on the light. It's gotten very dark, like nighttime. Oh, I can't turn on the light. Oh, I think the electricity is out. Uh-oh. Power outage could be a factor in your work. Hey, Josiah, I see that you are saying your screen is blank. It shouldn't be. If it is, it's probably because of your connection. You might want to close out of Zoom and then log back in, and hopefully you'll have a better connection. Unless anybody else is also reporting a blank screen. Rukia, not being able to actualize my work objectives. Very good. So you have these objectives, these things that you know you need to do, but for whatever reason, you're not able to actualize them. Yeah, it's a real feeling of not being able to succeed. It can be very frustrating. It can make you wonder why you're doing your job. Yes, I agree. And Tiberius, if you want to elaborate on what you have there. I'm putting something that's very stressful to me. When I like to plan ahead, and when something sudden comes up, I find it very stressful. Hi, Josiah, I see your hand is up. If you have a workplace situation, go ahead and put it in the chat box. We're going to just brainstorm first, and then we'll talk more about them.
Sorry.
Go ahead and put your answer in the chat box, and then we'll talk about them after we have kind of brainstormed them in the chat box. And also, can you see me now?
Not really. I can see, but I can't see the chat.
Okay, well, go ahead and open your chat. Do you know where to find it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Margot, that's similar to what Rukia said. Being given targets that you can't accomplish can be very stressful. Yeah, when you know, as soon as you get it, that you can't do this, you're kind of being set up for failure. It's a terrible feeling. I can totally understand that. Khadijah, yeah, something that's not explicitly mentioned, but I think one of the things we all think of when we think about stress in our jobs is money, poor pay, right? So you're working really hard, but the whole, well, one of the points of working is to alleviate that stress we have about money. But if we're not getting enough money, then we kind of wonder, what is this work for? Eunice, too high expectations. Yes. Yeah, that's similar to what I think Margot's saying, the target you have that just cannot be met, right? It's too high. And similar, Irene, unrealistic expectations, right? It makes you wonder, do the people in charge have any idea what's going on? It's a terrible feeling. Josiah, you have your message just to me, but I'll read it for everyone. Too much workload, right? That's a terrible feeling. You can't catch up and you feel it almost like a weight on yourself. Ooh, Caroline, being bullied relentlessly by the colleagues. Yes, that's a terrible thing, right? Your colleagues are supposed to be on your team. They're supposed to be there to support you. And when they're not doing that, that's a really bad feeling. I agree. Ooh, tight deadlines. Yes, I think that's kind of related to what I said, not having enough time, that stress there. Yes, deadlines are important because otherwise we might not do anything, but tight deadlines are very frustrating, right? They make us feel very constrained and stressed. Margot, if the administration is not supportive, like in projects, and parents delaying to provide required materials for lessons, in general, a lack of realia, a lack of materials, right? Then how can you get the work done? Yeah, that's another thing too, right? About our jobs. Our jobs are not just us, and they're not just our students, right? We have this administration over us that we can't really do things effectively if they don't support us. And then something that can be easy to forget about until it's not is parents, right? Parents usually, when everything is going well, you don't usually hear from parents. It's easy to forget about them. But if parents are unhappy, they appear suddenly, and it's a big problem, right? We need their cooperation. We need us to understand and support us. And we need them to make sure that their children have the right supplies, that they come to class, also making sure they do things like homework, stuff like that. Yeah, and you have this big thing going on, right? CBC, which is the competency-based curriculum, I believe. And I thought that this was a set thing that you were all changing to CBC instead of 484. But last week when I was talking to some of my colleagues, they were saying that CBC is not actually a done deal, that there's a task force looking at it. So I think that's very stressful if you should start adapting yourself to CBC, but then if it doesn't go through, then you're going back to 484. I think that's a very unsettling feeling. It was mentioned at the university that since nothing is settled, that the education department, that they're teaching the teachers both CBC and 484, so that they're ready for anything. But again, we're humans, we're not bottomless pits. We don't have unlimited energy. We don't have unlimited time. And so when we're being spread thin like that, it can be very stressful. Okay, everything that I've seen so far in the chat box is something that I definitely can identify with in my situations. Oh, Seth, I haven't seen you in a while. I think you are the Seth that I not met online a while back. Our students can make our work life easy or tough. Yes, if you have lazy and impolite students, it's also stressful. You're absolutely right. When you have good, motivated students, your job is just a pleasure. But when we have lazy, impolite students who maybe it might not just be their character, they may have some other issues, but dealing with that is very difficult. All right, thanks everyone for sharing. We're going to go into breakout rooms, and I'd like you to expand on those things that we just talked about. So in the chat box, we're kind of limited in how much we can say. So we're going to go into the chat box, and you're going to go ahead and expand on what you were talking about. And so I have here in the corner, share an anecdote, meaning share a small story that illustrates that. So for example, if it's about meeting unrealistic expectations, you might tell a story about a time when someone expected something of you that was really just absolutely unrealistic, and how you dealt with that, or how you didn't deal with it. Yeah, so not all of these will be success stories. They may leave us feeling extremely unhappy, and maybe something that we never got to correct. Because I think a big part of talking about mental health is that we don't always have to put a smile on things. Of course, we want to look towards putting things in perspective, but we also need to address things that are difficult and unpleasant. All right, so I'm going to open breakout rooms, and I would love for everyone in the breakout rooms to share a story. So I'm going to make the breakout rooms kind of small. I have them set for 3 or 4 people. And then if I notice, as I know not everyone joins the breakout rooms, if I notice after a few minutes you're all alone, I will move you to another room. So if you find yourself all alone, don't panic. I'll give it a minute or 2 for someone to join, and if no one does, I will move you. Remember too, if you get kicked out of your breakout room, don't worry. Just come back and I will try to put you in a room, but I can't put you anywhere until you get kicked out. You'll have to opt in yourself by pushing the join button. All right, let's see here. I'm going to give the breakout rooms about, I don't know, 8 minutes or so. That should allow everyone to speak. If you notice that you're the only one speaking, please encourage others to speak and try to make sure that everyone in your room has enough time. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open the rooms. And I'm going to turn off the recorders because it doesn't really record anything in the rooms. I apologize. It might be a bit loud. It's raining very hard. All right, so hopefully you had enough time to talk, and I apologize also, I forgot to give you a heads up on the time, so hopefully I didn't catch you off guard. Does anyone want to share something that they talked about in their breakout room? Yes, go ahead, Josiah.
Hi everyone, how are you?
Hi.
Yes, we are in group 3, breakout room 3, and we have a lot. Some we are 4. And some of the things that we yes, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Yes. Oh, somebody said that there was negative energy from colleagues and others. The large number of classes, and then the issue of the challenge that we faced during the corona period, where the terms was squeezed, that a student is expected to cover 1 year syllabus within 6 months. So we will find like teachers are panicking trying to cover. Eventually, you feel like you avoid something, you have not done everything you wanted to do. So those are some of the.
Yeah, I think that's something a lot of us can identify with, right? As teachers, we really like to be able to accomplish the things we set out to do. It's so frustrating and unsatisfying when we can't. Thank you for sharing. Others who want to share? Or yes, of course, you can use the chat as well. Go ahead, Khadija.
Evening.
Hi.
In our breakout room, we discussed about the issue of meeting tight deadlines. We gave a scenario where your paper, maybe it's done on Friday evening, yet you are told to submit the results by Monday morning. So you are supposed to mark the papers within that short time and submit the results by Monday. It is very frustrating since we'll have to carry the papers home. Yet at home you have kids, we have other things to attend to. Another issue was about witch hunting. There are some colleagues who will want to see you down all the time. So it becomes very frustrating for the targeted teachers. They feel they are not wanted, they feel rejected, and it becomes stressful for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Khadijah, for sharing both of those things. Yeah, I find it very frustrating. I know a lot of teachers do work on the weekends, but I don't think that we should be expected to, right? But yeah, absolutely. If there's a test or an exam on a Friday and those grades are due on Monday, then of course you have to work on the weekend. And that's not fair, right? That's not shouldn't be part of our jobs. If we choose to do extra things on the weekend or manage our schedule in such a way that we work on the weekends, that's one thing. But for administration to expect that is very unfair. And this other issue as well. Yeah, I think often we think of this kind of behavior with children, right? Where children kind of gang up and bully each other, but it's something unfortunately that adults do too. I don't know why, but yeah, you're right. Anyone else care to share? Or I know we have some people who were not able to join us in time for the breakout rooms. If they have,
Thank you.
go ahead.
Yes, in our group, we also shared about the aspect of teamwork, lack of teamwork among the colleagues we work with, where someone has put it, there's negative energy to sabotage anything that is positive that you want to do. You have a good idea, you want to do something, but it's faced with a lot of resistance and ill motive from the working environment. It's a bit discouraging and weighs down somebody. The second, you talked about the crowded programs in the school system. The employer has a lot of demand. You're expected to do a lot of other process alongside the teacher. There is the current one, TPD. TPD is where the teachers are taught how to teach. You have no holiday. You spend the whole holiday in class. You come back to school, you are teaching, there are deadlines to be met. So that kind of pressure from the employer is also negative. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that, Tiberius. Yeah, I think that's absolutely true, right? When we work on a good team, everything goes much easier. And when we work on a bad team that doesn't act like a team, it's extremely difficult, very frustrating. Thank you. Anyone else care to share or elaborate on ideas they shared in the chat? I'm sure that we all have stories that match these situations. Lorian says, sometimes one can have negative impacts on his or her mental health due to ineffective communication. Oh, that's true too, Lorian. That's a really good point. I think we've been talking a lot about deliberate actions, but sometimes it's accidental, just a matter of communication not being ineffective. So not intentionally negative, but just not being clear, and so having misunderstandings. You're absolutely right. And then Justice says, for proper mental health, one still needs eating balanced diet alongside emotional and spiritual self-care. Absolutely. We will come to that in a bit. Right. You're right. Yes, even if all things are good, if we don't take care of ourselves, we still we will suffer. Okay. Moving on then. So I want you to take a moment and think about these negative impacts, these negative situations we've been talking about. And I want you to think about how you feel when these things happen. And so you have a choice here. You can either write down how you feel on a piece of paper. You can use full sentences and do free writing. You can just brainstorm words if you like. Or if you're more of a kind of a visual person, you can draw how you feel with pictures or scribbles. So we're just going to take a couple minutes, maybe 3 minutes, to just write down on a piece of paper, either using words or images, to think about how we feel when these situations happen. And Mm. This is a good point, Carolyn. Management not caring about the mental health of some of their employees, especially when the supervisors are involved in the harassment. That's the absolute worst, right? Not only not supporting you, but actively harassing. And it makes a person feel very powerless, I think. All right, I'm going to turn off my camera because I feel weird drawing or writing with my camera on. I'm going to give us 3 minutes to either draw or write. But I will be paying attention here also. Marco, this is a very important point. Yes, we have different tribes here and hopefully most people get along well, but you may have some issues in people getting along due to ethnicity. Absolutely. All right, so taking a moment on your piece of paper to draw or write how you feel when you're experiencing this, and religion too. Good point, Khadijah. Give you about another minute to finish up your drawing or your writing. Of course, feel free to continue this as you like. And of course, you can draw and write. Oh, hi, Celestine.
Hi, Nina.
I don't often get to see your face. It's nice to see.
Thanks.
So of course, no one has to share their drawing or their writing. If you would like to, you may share your drawing or your writing. In whichever way is easier. You can, if it's writing, you can retype it. You could take a picture with your phone and share it in WhatsApp. It's really up to you how you want to do it. And if you don't want to share, that's fine too. I will share mine. I'm gonna put mine in the WhatsApp. Here, maybe I can share it in the WhatsApp and then put it on the screen. Let's see if I can do this. I don't know if I can. Oh, I think I can. Well, doing this. Anyone else can. Oh, I see an image that is an unhappy image. Also, sometimes technology can also be very frustrating. I'm going to stop sharing for a second. Oh, Margot, I see your picture in the WhatsApp. Let's see if I can share it. Well, I think I just exhausted my poor computer. So if you look in WhatsApp, you will see a nice mix of drawing and also words. We see anxiety, low. Not, sorry, mine's too small to see. Not something to work. Oh, not psych to work. And avoid communication. Yes, this is often how people deal with something like this, right? Instead of reaching out to others, we may find ourselves kind of isolating ourselves, not reaching out, not asking for help. Khadijah. Oh, I hope that that wasn't specifically on that day. Perhaps it was, but we see a very unhappy face. And since I'm having troubles here, I'll just, oh, yeah, share. Oh, I see another photo. Celestine's photo. Oh, also very sad, but with an adorable nose, I will say. My picture is kind of weird. When I feel like this, I feel like something is very heavy on me. And it's not a good feeling. Bear with me a moment. My attempt to share photos made my computer have a small seizure, and now it doesn't want to use PowerPoint. So give it a moment and let it reboot. Just the PowerPoint. So thinking about why this matters, of course, mental health is important to everyone. We want to have a happy and healthy society, which we cannot have when people are suffering with mental health issues. Just as with our physical health, I think that it's so often for us to think about what kind of issues are involved with our physical health and how important our physical health is, that when we're not physically healthy, we can't do our jobs. And I think that often we overlook mental health. We don't take it the same way. We don't take it as seriously. If nothing else, when we're not mentally healthy, we can't do our jobs effectively. As I mentioned earlier, our jobs as teachers are not about, they're not physical labor. It's not about just moving our bodies. It's not about just typing on a screen. It's not about just delivering the content that's in our books. Teaching is an emotional investment, and when we are not mentally healthy, we cannot be there for our students. We cannot perform our jobs effectively. And our jobs affect so many others. And so it's especially important for us to be taking care of ourselves. Oh, I think we have another picture. Oh, we have one with tears from Unia. Oh, and also, oh, Caroline, I did not see yours. Oh, yours is a very dark, but also very geometrically interesting also. It looks like it felt good to make that drawing. So two specific results when we are having these negative impacts on our emotions are burnout and compassion fatigue. These are very common things. Yeah, I'm glad you added that term. The darkness is very apparent, but yeah, that confused feeling, right? A very lost feeling that we have. I know some of you watched the webinar, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that Liz England did, and hers was mostly about COVID and dealing with that time. And so I think a lot of people were feeling these things. Hopefully you enjoyed that talk. Liz England is a friend of mine. Actually, I worked with her in Uzbekistan. She is a very experienced person. So I think these are two terms that are often confused, or I think burnout is very common and compassion fatigue is not as widely known. And then when people hear of it, they think of it as being synonymous with burnout, but in fact, they're very different. Yeah, and Sandra is very sweet too. I worked with her on a project a while ago. She is a very sweet lady. And thank you, Margot. I think it was you who shared about it. You do a great job of sharing with others, letting us know what's going on out there. Oh, Judith, are you the Judith that Liz contacted me with? Put me in touch with them?
Yes. Oh,
my gosh. Yeah, I was just thinking about you when I saw Liz's thing. I thought, you know what? I never got back to Judith and I should do that. But you're here, we're together.
Oh.
That's awesome.
Thanks. We met at the space, but we didn't know we were to meet.
That is amazing. Okay, we will report back to Liz that we have met. And now
Sure.
Judith is your mentor, Margot. Oh, that's awesome. It's a great circle.
Thank you.
So cool. Thanks, LPAC, for bringing us all together. So burnout is, we can think of burnout in many areas of our lives. I think parents often feel burnt out, but as defined by the WHO, this is a workplace issue, right? So this is from chronic workplace stress. No workplace has no stress, but chronic stress is this day-to-day a kind of unrelenting thing, right? We have good days and bad days, but when you find that your workplace has more bad days than good days, this is when we're experiencing this chronic stress. And so we have this feeling of exhaustion. So like in my picture, you may have this stress, but in the end, you feel nothing. So in the bottom of my picture, it's like a black puddle. I've just pooled onto the floor. Increases your mental distance. So you have trouble kind of harnessing those positive energies. And when you think about work, you can't seem to emotionally engage with it. It's hard to care about. And you just have this deep negativity. And it was mentioned before, just wanting to be away from others. And so your professional efficacy, your ability to be an effective professional is greatly reduced and possibly even eliminated. Of course, it's not permanent, but unless things change, it's, I think, impossible to recover. So there must be some change. And so when we feel these, we start to, don't wait till you get all the way here, but when you start to feel these things, it's a clue to yourself that something must be done. And then compassion fatigue is close but different. This is this exhaustion, caring for others, right? So we have all of these issues with administration and resources and things like that. But our students need a lot, and it can really drain us. Even the best students need a lot, but then we're also dealing with students who can be coming from very difficult situations. Corona was mentioned earlier. So many students possibly lost parents, or maybe their parents suffered significant health issues, maybe lost jobs. This is affecting them. For many students, school is an escape. And during COVID, while they had to stay home, they had to stay possibly in some not very nice environments with no escape. And then we have the other day-to-day things. Unfortunately, although I believe people are good, there are many issues out there with abuse and violence and bullying, all of these things. And so when students need us, we want to give them everything we can, right? We'll be talking about working, differentiating for students and students' abilities. And I often meet teachers who their biggest issue with working with different abilities is they want to support the low learners. And so they see these students who need, and so they try to give as much as they can. And we can only do this for so long until we experience compassion fatigue, which is our self's way of kind of protecting ourselves and saying, no more, I can't give anymore, right? And so the effects may cause us to have a great deal of anxiety, depression, to lose interest, to lose care, and to not just want to avoid our students, but to avoid other relationships as well. And so we need to recognize these things. So, of course, when we're having these situations, we need to look for change and ways to enact change. But on a day-to-day basis, as was mentioned earlier, maybe it was Justice who mentioned, self-care is a big way to prevent us from getting to this place. When we get to this place, we need to change things. But ideally, we avoid getting to that place. And so there are many things out of our control. We need to do as much as we can to take care of the things that are in our control. So number one is to prioritize ourselves and our needs. I think as teachers, we often prioritize others. We put others above us. As families also, right? Mothers and fathers will put their children before themselves. You might even put your husbands or wives before yourselves. Parents who are in need, if you have older parents, giving yourself to them. There are those who even give themselves to their coworkers first. And we kind of, when everything else has been given, then we think about ourselves. But as teachers, you are too valuable to be at the bottom. And so you need to prioritize yourself and your needs. It's not selfish, it's actually unselfish. But if you don't prioritize yourself, you cannot do for others, right? So by prioritizing yourself, you need to set aside time for relaxation. You cannot work all the time. And when I have food there, it doesn't mean treat yourself to whatever you want. Oftentimes chocolate or ice cream seems like a great idea when we're stressed. But actually, there's a lot of studies coming out right now that what the body wants during these times is not what the body should have. And there are more and more studies about how the foods we eat affect the way we feel, and that it's actually the healthy foods that make us feel better, even though if I sit down to a plate of vegetables in the moment, I don't feel better, but over long term, you will feel better. Exercise is important. Exercise doesn't mean riding your bike to Uganda, as my husband is going to do, and Tiberius and I were talking about yesterday. That's an extreme form of exercise, but walking a bit. There's a woman I work with, and she purposely parks away from her classroom so that she has to walk 10 minutes to her class and 10 minutes back. And that way she's making sure she has at least 20 minutes of exercise every day. Margot, that is a good point. Dark chocolate does help Milk chocolate, no, not so much, but dark chocolate, actually, yes, it supports your memory. And I think it also is a mood booster as well. And also is a great treat. And sleep. I think that sleep is something that often gets pushed aside. I know that many people stay up late to finish their work. It's maybe the only time when your house is quiet, your children have gone to bed, and that you can concentrate. Others wake up early. But if you continue to rob yourself of sleep, even if you think you're doing okay, you're not doing okay. Your organs need that time to repair themselves, and your brain needs that time. Actually, your brain needs that time to consolidate the experiences and the things you've learned during the day. Students actually could use this as well. If any person spends their whole day learning and they never sleep, they won't retain that knowledge. Sleeping is a time when your brain has a chance to take all of that and embed it. It's very important. Planning ahead can do a lot to reduce stress. I think I mentioned earlier that when suddenly I have a deadline or something unexpected arises, I find that very stressful. Planning ahead is one of the main things I do to kind of control my stress and give me a sense of control. When we're in these bad situations, we can feel powerless. And so being able to schedule makes me feel empowered and reduces my stress. So if you can plan ahead, I recommend it. Setting boundaries is important too. Something I do usually after 9 o'clock. I don't check WhatsApp. I usually turn it off. And it's a boundary I have. I have a lot of social interactions on WhatsApp, but I often in the past would have students contacting me at late hours, and it really, I don't know, really stressed me out. And so that's one boundary that I set for myself. Justice, I'm glad you mentioned that. That's actually very enjoyable, right? Planning for outings, off duty, and holidays is another way that planning can help reduce our stress. It's something very enjoyable. Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that. So this was something that came up on a website, is to survey your skills. It's not something I thought about. So surveying your skills encompasses two things. One is to kind of helps you appreciate your skills. So seeing what you are good at and kind of boosting your confidence and making yourself aware of what you can do. And also identifying what maybe isn't a skill you have that you would like to obtain. And so thereby kind of setting a goal for yourself that you can work towards. That can also be empowering. Adjusting expectations. So although others may have expectations up here, maybe our expectations aren't there, right? So maybe you think, okay, I'm going to have, the perfect activity for my class. Okay, well, maybe it's not the perfect activity, but it's a good activity that is enjoyable and effective. And maybe next time when you do it, you'll be able to make it a little better. Things don't have to be perfect. You do what you can. And this is something that I struggle with when I get stressed out and start to get burned out or depressed. I tend to want to be alone. I am an introvert. Some people are surprised to hear that. But being an introvert doesn't mean that I don't like others. It means I like others very much, but social interactions make me very tired. And so when I start to suffer in terms of my mental health, my instinct is to stay socially disconnected. So to not take phone calls, not hang out with friends, and to try to just isolate and cut myself off. But this is actually not a good thing to do. It doesn't mean that you need to go out and go to a party, but that you do want to reach out to your close social connections. And also being mindful. So noticing if you notice that you are not sleeping enough, or you notice that maybe you are putting on weight because maybe you are not being active enough. Maybe you notice that you've been lately tending to eat a lot of foods that aren't good for you. And you think, oh, I just need these things. It's actually, this is a clue for you to think about what's going on in your life. Why are you doing these things? Maybe you are being grumpy with your wife or husband or your children. This is kind of a clue. And so you want to take a moment and think, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Is this how I want to be? And how things can change. These aren't easy things to do. And others. So these are some suggestions for self-care. I'm sure you have some other suggestions. Oh, Lillian, identify time wasters and set goals, especially if you want to meet given deadlines or timelines. Yes, that's, you know what, I think that goes with the setting boundaries. So if you identify these people and you make sure you set boundaries for them, very good. Yeah, there are those people who will just eat up your time. And they don't mean to, but yes, we need to be aware of them. What other tips for self-care do you have? It can be something general. It can be something specific. What do you do when you think about taking care of yourself? Do you think about taking care of yourself? I think it's something that we often forget until we get sick. It's often until we become physically sick that we take some time to take care for ourselves. When we become mentally sick, we often don't recognize it until it gets severe. Go ahead, Josiah.
Again, I think the other things like what do you call it? Doing whatever you enjoy, leisure, exactly, leisure.
Yes.
Yes, sometimes we underestimate that, but reading a book, novel, reading, rather listening to music, the one you like, can really help you relax. Sometimes somebody may be too tired even to sleep, but this, I think that's another way of caring for yourself, your mind also. Now, eventually, if you're tired, the music will make you relax and sleep. Others who play instruments, so for games, playing games like I think the poker, cards, such very good, nice activities, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. It sounds like you have a very lively house. I like that you said that though. I think that oftentimes when people feel guilty when they have things like work duties and responsibilities and they take time out and they pursue leisure instead. I think people often feel guilty, but you're absolutely right. It is part of self-care. So other things I see is meditation. Very good. Meditation is nice because it's something that doesn't necessarily take a long time. We don't need any equipment or anything like that. Oh, Rukia, take some time to identify what works through gratitude journaling. Very good. Gratitude journaling where we think about what we appreciate, what we're thankful for. Actually, when I can't sleep at night, it's something I like to mentally do. It's very calming. Antonine also mentions meditation. Excellent. And in a similar vein, the self-reflection on one's feelings. Yeah, I think a lot of times in our hectic lives, we don't take enough time for self-reflection. Hiking, Margot, I love hiking. Attend recollection retreats and shrines. I also paint. Oh, makeovers, facials and pet. Oh, yes, those are a boost. I like that. Very good. Very good self-care too, right? Oh, Irene, this is I think this goes can be put also under mantras, things that we have to remember to tell ourselves that you cannot solve everyone's problem, right? I think it's when people ask us for help, we feel so obligated to do what we can. Lorian, I love to go to new places in order to feel like I'm in a new environment. At that time, I'm always healed. That, you know what, there are studies about that change of place, what it does for the brain and helps it to reset. Excellent. Caroline says, the thing is most people don't understand that introverts have all those tendencies you mentioned and actually make their lives even more worse than they are. Criticize, verbal abuse, send messages that state how they don't like you, etc. So you could tell introverts like me how to go about such situations besides locking yourself in your house. meditation. Yeah, I think the introverts are often, very misunderstood. And when they pull away from society, others take it personally. I think you're absolutely right. And so it's hard to explain to others that sometimes we just need a little time for ourselves. You're absolutely right. Okay, how are we doing for time? Oops, I accidentally reset. Okay, so we're going to just take a few minutes in a breakout room here, and you're just going to share here if there's anything here that you do. You mentioned some other things such as meditation, leisure. Is there anything that you want to do that you don't do now, that you feel like you need to make more of an effort to care for yourself, and something that maybe you'd like to try? So we're just going to go into short breakout rooms. And when we come back, we're going to make an action plan. So we're going to just kind of use this breakout room as a way to kind of further develop our ideas and further explore them. So we have more people than we had before. I'm going to recreate these rooms. So again, there's about 3 to 4 people in a room. If I see you're all alone, I'll move you, but I want to keep the rooms kind of small so that you have a chance to talk. Actually, I'm going to make the rooms even a little smaller so that you have a chance to talk. All right, we'll give it 4 or 5 minutes. Please make sure that you give others a chance to talk, that everybody gets a chance to say what they do, what they want to do, what they need to work on also in terms of self-care. So the rooms are open. You can go ahead and join. Margot, I like your background. It looks like a nice space to be in.
Margot, say thank you.
All right, so hopefully you had a good discussion, and hopefully you got some ideas as well. Oh, we're all out of our groups. Okay, so based on what we've been talking about and this discussion that you hopefully a enlightening discussion, we don't want to just be talk, we want to be action as well. And so we're going to make action plans, a statement, 2 statements, something that maybe you already do that you want to continue to do for your mental health, and then adding something else. And it doesn't have to be 2 to 3, 1 or 2 things is fine. So I'll continue to maybe prioritize sleep, or I'll continue to value my social interactions, or meditate, or whatever you do, and make an effort to do something else. So for example, making an effort to increase my social interactions and expand my social group. Or also something that wasn't in my list is also asking for help, right? Making sure that you have someone that you can let know that you're not okay. Oh, Metrine, I like that. Go out and relax. You know what? I'd already finished the PowerPoint, but I was reading today about how being out in nature does something to the brain that kind of triggers relaxation. Very important. Actually, that is one of the reasons why I love Kisumu. It's full of beautiful trees. Continue trying different recipes. Oh, I like that. Taking photos and serving. That's excellent. Thank you, Margot, for sharing. Latrine, listening to music. Excellent. Yes, please do share your action plans, improving your skills. Very good. Yeah, improving your skills to some might sound like work, but a lot of the depression that we feel in workplace environments is about a lack of power and control. And so when we do things like work on our skills or self-improvement, it increases that feeling of power, of control, and confidence. Oh, very good, Caroline. I like that. Yes, for change of scene purposes, I like watching movies. Yes, watching movies is a great way to relax, and you do learn things by watching movies. Oh, Nancy, continue to sharpen your English skills. Very empowering, right? Yeah. Very good, Tiberius. Yes, keep watching Arsenal play. Excellent for your relaxation. Me too, Lillian. I will continue to plan ahead. And Judith is going to adopt a daily planner. Very good. Nancy, yeah, I like that too. Something I'm going to work on too, to network more, making new friends worldwide. Yeah, there is, yes. So something that's mentioned privately to me is that there can be a stigma when a teacher admits that they are seeking professional help. So it is unfortunate that there are so many stigmas around mental health. And so I think that's part of the reason why it's important to be selective about who our special people are that we feel that we can talk to. There are still many stigmas. We should ask for help, but sometimes when people hear about that, they think negative things. We want to change that attitude, and we want to support those who need help. Taking a day at a time, yes, and following the serenity prayer. Oh, Margot, I love the serenity prayer, right? I think it's very true that we control the things that we can. Oh, watching lively documentaries and live choir music. That sounds lovely. Reading my Bible and praying, right? Because that sense of well-being. Just I will continue to make more friends and engage in prayer. Excellent. Judith, I'll make an effort to create boundaries on timing for social media communications. Yeah, it's a difficult thing to do. But I think it's actually something that I started to adopt because I saw someone else doing it. And she was so happy about it that I decided to try it too. Oh, Nancy, working for the community. Yes, right. That gives a great feeling of making a difference. Continue to share more new ideas and creativity. Excellent. Right? Empowering others can help you to empower yourself. Lauren will continue meditating, change places, go in the nature, do planning, and make an effort in outdoor activities such as hiking and bike riding. Right? Good for your mind and your body. That's awesome. And Nancy will continue to be a smiley person. They do say that the act of smiling actually triggers something in the brain that helps you feel better. Oh, Matrine, that's really difficult. I think it's something very severe. And I think it's definitely outreach to others to help you to recover your work. Maybe also looking into new skills so that you don't feel so, I don't know, you might feel like you're not good enough because of this. And so you might need to pursue something that helps you boost that confidence again. I think it depends on the individual and the situation, but I think that's a really serious situation that really can be quite devastating. And I think definitely having a strong support network, reaching out to others. Yeah, I like that, Irene. I think what you're saying there also kind of allows you to let go, right? So I think a lot of you are also creating things that would go with this final suggestion is to adopt a mantra. A mantra is something that you tell yourself And it has a calming effect and reinforces something. So for example, here, every day is a fresh start. When you wake up in the morning and you feel already yesterday's pressure comes, today is a fresh start, right? So kind of cleaning off that slate. So you might have your own mantra. The Serenity Prayer kind of works as a mantra, reminding us of what we can do. And while it's not completely related, I once read an article about people who survived like disasters, like, I don't know, maybe their plane crashed and they were surviving in the mountains or something. But having a mantra was one of the ways that they were able to survive. It kind of clears the brain and helps to reset. And so I think it just also kind of speaks to perspective. So being mindful, paying attention to ourselves, caring for ourselves, taking time out for ourselves. If you're interested, WHO has a lot of information, fact sheets, articles on their website. I'm sure there's many out there, but it's something I used to put this together, and there was a lot of interesting information. As I mentioned also, this is the beginning of a conversation, talking specifically about self-care for teachers. But this is something that I would hope that we return to. Some of you mentioned in the survey that this is a topic that you would like to present on. And so we will be coming back to this as well. And thank you again for filling out the survey. I'll be in touch with those of you who mentioned wanting to present topics you'd like to present on, or suggestions of other people who could help us out. Oh, Celestina, I like that. Continue dancing and listen to music. Go for a full body massage. Make every effort. I like that. So I think that's exactly it. I think a lot of times we judge ourselves if we do something like that, and we're afraid that others will judge us. And perhaps we might even judge others who maybe are saying, oh, you know, I don't have that much money, but you know what, I'm going for a full body massage. We have to set our own priorities for ourselves. And I think the less we judge others, the less we will judge ourselves too. So I think that's a big part of it. I open this up to anyone else who wants to share some words of wisdom or something of that nature and close us out. Thanks everyone for being here. Always nice to see you all.
I would like to, on behalf of LPAC, to say something.
Please do.
I appreciate Mina for choosing this topic at this particular time. This year's theme for the World Mental Health Day was make mental health and well-being a global priority.
Oh.
And actually it starts with conversations like this ones. There's a lot of stigma around mental health. Yesterday I did a clinic for just screening mental health issues where I stay, and not many people showed up, but I'm glad that people are starting to see the importance of that. So I'm hoping with such initiatives, bit by bit, we'll be able to bring out that actually mental health, there's no health without mental health. And at times, as you said, you might be mentally unstable and it runs down and affects your teaching, your learners that you want to help. So it's very important to be well first before you can be able to help another person. And the punchline that I want to leave with is what Mina said: as teachers, you are too valuable to be at the bottom. So I think this is a journey. I'm glad you're saying this is where we are starting, and we will have more of this. Just to mention something when it comes to retrenchment, the question that Metrine asked, I also noted yesterday from the people I saw, many people are struggling from retrenchment and many other kinds of losses. So probably also in addition to what Mina said, understanding the emotions that surround a loss is also a very good thing when someone is healing. Maybe it's something that the issue of dealing with loss of any type is something that we can put in our list of the things that we're going to discuss in future. Thank you so much, Mina. And if you are new in this platform, please reach out to me via the inbox so that I can put you into the WhatsApp group.
Thanks, Rukia. Metrine, I see you have your hand up. Would you like to share something with us?
Yes, Mina. I would like to, first of all, I would like to thank you for such a good topic that you have shared with us today. And just like Rukia has said that many, let me specify and say teachers are going through mental health. Like I remember sometimes my student would ask me, teacher, I hear that those who are doing teaching are those who failed and they didn't have a course to do, so they chose to do teaching. And so at times you have to defend yourselves and say no and explain yourself a bit. So what I'm trying to say that teaching is one of the jobs in Kenya that people tend to think that is not well paying. Of course, it is not, but we struggle because it is something that is in our heart. We are passionate through it, towards it rather. And what I would like to encourage us in order to deal with these mental issues is that also as teachers, we should not just have teaching as our source of income. We can also have what we call, Mina, in Kenya, side hustle, where you have some of your businesses that you have aside so that in case of that retrenchment that I'm talking about, you are not left financially unstable. At least you have something else that would give hope to your life. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that, Metrine. Yes, I think that's all really important. And I don't know if it will make you feel better or make you feel worse, but the situation in the US is not that different at all. Many teachers there do have other jobs in order to make sure that they can pay the bills. And yeah, there's a saying, those who can't teach. So you couldn't be a musician, so you became a music teacher. And I think that's a really negative view of teachers, because teachers can. They not only can do whatever it is they're teaching, but they can teach others to do it. And I think that's something that's really underappreciated. And just the situation worldwide, I think teachers are often, people talk about how important teachers are, but we see that the importance is not reflected in pay. The importance is not reflected often in the way society deals with teachers and such. And so it's difficult. But knowing that to be a teacher is to be a very extraordinary person is something that we know and that we can keep in our hearts. Thank you all for making this the session that it was. It really doesn't matter what I put on these PowerPoints if you all don't contribute the way that you do. And so thank you for making these sessions what they are. I hope you all have a great week, 2 weeks. And I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks, whatever that day is, I guess the 25th. And we'll start to be looking at learner differences. But I'll see you on the WhatsApp, although probably not after 9 p.m. Bye all. Have a wonderful night. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mina.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye all.